म्यूट कर
Yes, we are ready now to start. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you today to this webinar on enhancing bilateral trade and investment opportunities between India and Kuwait, being organized by the Trade Promotion Council of India in collaboration and with the support of the Embassy of India in Kuwait. Trade has always been a strong and integral component of India-Kuwait bilateral relations. In fact, India has been among Kuwait's top 10 trade partners over the years. Oil is undoubtedly a critical component of this relationship. In fact, during FY 2019-20, Kuwait was the 10th largest oil supplier to India and met about 3.8% of India's energy needs. India's exports, on the other hand, have been led by cereals, ceramic products, nuclear reactors, electrical machinery, and vehicles. Total bilateral trade with Kuwait for India during FY 2019-20 was US $10.86 billion, while it fell to US $6.27 billion in 2020-21, ostensibly reflecting the impact of the pandemic. Besides trade, there is a sizable investment and presence of Indian PSUs already, as well as the private sector in Kuwait. Some of the examples are financial services companies like LIC International, LIC Housing Finance, New India Assurance, Oriental Insurance Company, HDFC, EPC companies such as L&T, Shapurji Palonji, Kalpataru Power Transmission, Terry, SR Projects, Simplex Projects, and ITES firms like TCS, Wipro, and Tech Mahindra. Moreover, the presence of around 9 lakh income, which form the largest activity in that country, in Kuwait, form an important dimension of India-Kuwait relations. Given these factors, today's webinar, which aims to provide a better understanding on the current status, progress, opportunities, and potential of the India-Kuwait business relationship, garners special significance. We are indeed fortunate to have a highly esteemed panel, which is well equipped to educate us on this topic. Without taking any more time, I would now like to introduce them to you. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Shri Sibi George, Ambassador of India to Kuwait, Srimati Smita Patil, First Secretary, Political and Commerce, Embassy of India in Kuwait, Mr. Choji Lamba, President Al Melam Group, Kuwait, and Chairman of Indian Business and Professional Council, IBPC. Al Melam Group is a leading player in Kuwait's automotive industry, tires, spare parts, auto glass, briquettes, batteries, and range of equipment for garages and workshops. Mr. Ashok Kalra is advisor to the Indian Business Network in Kuwait. He's a hotelier by profession and runs a very popular chain of restaurants named Mughal Mahal in Kuwait. Mr. Sohinder Gill, CEO, Global Business Hero Eco and Director General SMEV, which represents the electrical vehicle manufacturers in India, and he'll be talking about this futuristic sector during his address. We have also with us my colleagues Suresh Makhijani sir, Joint Director General, Trade Promotion Council of India, and Ashok Sethi sir, who's Director, Trade Promotion Council of India. To start this session, I would now like to invite Your Excellency Shri Sibi George, Ambassador of India to Kuwait, to deliver the keynote address.
Good morning in Kuwait and good afternoon in India to you all. The TPCI team, our panelists for the program today, and participants who have joined us online, greetings from Embassy of India. I'm delighted to see some of my good friends after a long time, and I'm so happy to join you today to discuss opportunities and potential of India-Kuwait trade and business partnership. I'm so happy to see the efforts being taken by TPCI in maintaining the momentum in our trade and economic relations with the world, despite the several challenges posed by devastating COVID-19 pandemic. The bilateral relations between Kuwait and India are strong and deep-rooted. Close trade links and cultural bonds form the bedrock of our long dynamic partnership. Next month, it will be 1 year since I arrived in Kuwait. In my time here, hardly a day goes by when I do not meet a Kuwaiti dignitary who tells me about their family's traditional bonds with India. They often share nostalgic memories of an era when sailing to India was as natural as anything for a Kuwaiti young man. The enterprising men who crisscross the Arabian Sea have laid the foundation of trust and mutual understanding, which has only strengthened in the post-oil, the oil era, and now it continues. Today, India and Kuwait are important trade partners to each other. If India is significant for Kuwait's food security, Kuwait is important for India's energy security. India is a major source of food grains and other agricultural produce, and as such a crucial partner for food security of Kuwait. Despite the global effects of the pandemic, India remains one of the top trade partners to Kuwait. In fact, India is moving from strength to strength despite the setbacks. For instance, India's global exports in June 2021, global exports amounted to USD $32 billion, an increase of 47 from June 2020, again a COVID-affected month last year. India-Kuwait bilateral trade amounted to $6.6 billion during 2020-21, with Indian exports to Kuwait amounting to more than $1 billion. There is a decline in the import of oil from Kuwait, which was, as the previous speaker mentioned, that was the reason why the total volume of trade has come down. Major exports to Kuwait from India continues to be cereals, ceramic products, machinery and mechanical appliances, vehicles, coffee and spices, articles of iron and steel, marine products, agricultural product exports agricultural products alone accounted for $292 million. With the top export being basmati and non-basmati rice, fresh vegetables, onions, cashew kernels, mango pulp, cereal preparations, dairy products, etc. I recall this year we did a major mango exhibition with a declared dream that every Kuwaiti family will have at least a few cartons of mangoes starting from this year. I'm very happy that just before the hailstorm in India, the floods in India, which affected some of our mango growing parts of the country, we managed to get a lot of mangoes from India directly imported to Kuwait and distributed to our friends, Kuwaiti friends. India ranks amongst the top 3 exporter countries to Kuwait in various product categories in 2020. In cereals, India enjoys a market share of almost 50% of Kuwaiti imports, with almost 90% market share in basmati rice imports. In electric and machinery and appliances, India ranks 3rd with a 6% market share in Kuwaiti imports. For pearls and precious metals, we are 2nd with a 9.8 market share. Of course, there is huge potential for improvement there. Food and food products, education, digital technology, cyber security, health and wellness, automobiles, these continue to be, including smart mobility. These are some of the major sectors in which we are likely to see more opportunities in Kuwait. I recall my meeting yesterday with the chairman of the India-Kuwait Chamber of Commerce and Industry, where we discussed about a possibility of sector-wise engagement in each of these sectors, including the financial sector, fintech areas. The pandemic has changed a lot of things, and the nature of our economic relationship is also bound to be affected. Hence, in all these areas, there are more opportunities. I am glad that today we have an expert group of speakers to discuss especially the sectors of food and automobiles in detail. Dear friends, this year marks the 60th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Kuwait. And as part of the celebrations to mark this occasion, our embassy has planned several events that aim to take the friendly relationship between our two countries further, focusing on trade and investment, economic, cultural, and other aspects, especially as Kuwait is host to a large Indian community, 1 million Indian community. The political leadership is committed to boosting our relationship to the next level, take it to new level of partnership. Often we tend to overlook what is familiar and does not present hiccups. This is precisely why the potential of this relationship has still not been fully tapped. We have had excellent political contacts in the last few months with the Kuwaiti Foreign Minister, His Excellency Dr. Ahmad Nasser Al Mohammad Al Sabah visiting India in March. Our Honorable External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, visiting Kuwait last month. Both the ministers have made it clear to their teams, to our both embassies and other stakeholders, that they are committed to transformation of this relationship. We are working on a roadmap for further deepening our partnership, of which trade, economic, commerce, investment is one of the main elements of that relationship. Hence, our bilateral economic and commercial relationship is also set to improve to a deeper partnership. I'm happy to point out that we already have a good framework for deeper engagement between our chambers and businesses. For example, we have signed an economic agreement way back in 1974, which is still valid, which needs to be implemented in letter and spirit to take our relationship to new level. We have a protocol for cooperation between Kuwait Chamber of Commerce and Industry and FICCI, signed in 1995. We have a protocol for cooperation between Kuwaiti Chamber, the same chamber, and CII signed in 2003. MOU between Kuwaiti Chamber of Commerce and Ashok signed in 2006. And an MOU between the Chamber and PhD Chamber of India signed in 2017. What is now important is to ensure that each of these MOUs and protocols are proactively implemented to take this relationship to a new level of partnership. The embassy is committed to maximum outreach and support for our Indian businesses in Kuwait through proactive implementation of these MOUs and protocols, and also through the various platforms available for us, such as the Indian Business Network, which we have set up, the Indian Business and Professional Council, which is a very active organization which you are aware of, Indian Professionals Network. We will continue to focus on each of these sectors I mentioned and more in coming weeks and months. Despite the challenges COVID is creating, we could have more engagement, more interaction, and I am sure that we would be able to take this relationship to a new level. I extend my thanks to TPCI for partnering with the embassy for this webinar and wish our panelists all the best. I look forward to a very fruitful discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for setting the context so wonderfully and giving us the roadmap which is being laid out by the policy makers on both sides to enhance the trade partnership. I would now request Srimati Smita Patil, First Secretary, Political and Commerce, Embassy of India in Kuwait, to deliver her presentation on India-Kuwait bilateral trade relations. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Let's just have an overview of the India-Kuwait bilateral economic partnership. This is to give an idea to all our participants about the nature of our relationship and to place it in the context of Kuwait's global economic interactions. Can we move to the next, please? Yes. So as you all know, India and Kuwait are natural trading partners. So much so that until 1961, Indian rupee was the legal tender here in Kuwait. Before oil, there was extensive contact between our two societies for trade, for cultural links, and these were very specific kind of trade relationships where the Kuwaiti sailors would sail to India and come back with goods from India and then trade with all the region in the entire North Africa and the Gulf region. So Kuwait was a major trading hub. As you know, geographically, we are neighbors. The Arabian Sea separates us, and that is why our naval links by sea are excellent. And today we have our air connectivity also at par with any other country. So we have an excellent connectivity with Kuwait. Historical links, as I said, were based on trade links and cultural affinities between the two societies, and we know each other very well. There are a large number of people who have had families in both the countries, and now, as you know, there are around 1 million Indians living in Kuwait, and it's a large diaspora for India. As you know, Kuwait is a petroleum-based economy with crude oil reserves of around 101 billion barrels. And as is natural that most of Kuwait's exports to the world are related to petroleum, more than 50% of their GDP. The sovereign wealth fund of Kuwait is strong. It is $592 billion, about 430% of their current GDP. Next, please. If we look at what Kuwait imports, so as you know, Kuwait is a arid desert, so lots of products related to food, lots of capital equipment, manufacturing equipment, and consumer goods all come from abroad. The top sources of imports to Kuwait in 2019 were China, UAE, United States, Saudi Arabia, Japan, and India. There are some other European partners as well. In terms of India-Kuwait bilateral trade, literally this has been historically based on a solid foundation of mutual goodwill and friendship. We are in amongst the top 10 partners of Kuwait. The total bilateral trade in last financial year was $6.2 billion. India's exports to Kuwait were, as mentioned by Ambassador, 1 billion, while imports amounted to $5.2 billion. The major items in terms of the broad categories are these. As you can see, food items which are covered in others are mostly fresh vegetables, and lots of other food items are the major part of our exports. Then there are also cereals, which are almost 18%. Then machinery. There are other items like vehicles. Automobiles, as we said, is a major item of our relationship. So that is why we are today focusing on food as well as automobile sector. Next, please. And what, in terms of products, specific products, here in the embassy, we have done a study of extensive study which involved finding out market share of India's products, India in the top 100 products imported by Kuwait. And as mentioned by Ambassador, we have a great market share in many of these products in top 3. Here you see the topmost products in which in many of those we have the largest market share as well. For example, basmati rice, and it is growing by the year. The ceramic tiles, motor cars, diamond jewelry, shrimps, benzene, walls, and animal meat products. There has been, of course, some fluctuation in our exports because of COVID, because as you know that though the supply chains were maintained, but still there was a bit of an impact, and it has hit our exports to Kuwait definitely. That is why last year was abnormal, but we are already seeing that in this financial year, we have already made amends, and we hope to recover and actually grow our exports to Kuwait. Next, please. Here, what we import from Kuwait, which is, of course, obviously, it's about petroleum products and related products. More than 60% of our imports from Kuwait are related to oil and oil products. Next, please. The products specifically are these at HS8 level. Petroleum crude, so petroleum and related products, and then we see that industrial scraps and waste materials which are then recycled in India. Next, please. So coming to what the embassy has been doing in terms of promotion of India-Kuwait bilateral trade, since Ambassador tenure started here in last August, there have been multiple initiatives in this regard. As you can see, we have Indian Business Network, through which we conduct product-specific and sector-specific events. A large number of Indian businesses in Kuwait have all registered with us, and they are actively participating in each of our outreach activities. There is Indian Professionals Network, which covers all the professional qualified professionals here in Kuwait, and that also has been actively taking this agenda forward. Here is our bulletin that we have now started this year since January 2021. The bulletin is a sort of a chronicle of what happens in a particular month in terms of business and industry. Also gives, can we please go to the link there? It is available on our website. So, right, I think we will have to start sharing our screen again. Right, that's okay. In any case, the bulletin is available on our website. Every month it is updated, and we also have a financial markets bulletin. We have now the Ayush bulletin, which we are publishing every month as well. So all these bulletins are distributed to all our interested parties in Kuwait, and especially in these times when physical contact is limited, we see that this gives a lot of people that connect with India and and updates about what is happening in business and industry, as well as trades in India, and we endeavor to promote Indian tourism as well. And every month we focus on one or two states, as well as ease of doing business for Indian businesses here in Kuwait. Next, please. This is a glimpse of what Ambassador mentioned earlier. This year we are going to focus on, based on our analysis of top 100 products of Kuwait's imports, we are going to focus on some products for which we have a large potential, where we can still increase our market share and we have a competitive advantage. As I mentioned, the competitive advantage India holds is in terms of vegetable products. In 2019, it was $396 million. Machines, which was $279 million, and textiles, which was $161 million. So from our analysis in 2019, lots of products in these categories can still further grow, and that can provide us with valuable foreign exchange. So the product categories, of course, 2020 was a year of aberration. So if we look at 2019, we had rice, which was mentioned earlier, which grew by almost 20%. Cars, the other sector that we are focusing on today, automobiles, grew by almost 134% in 2019, and delivery trucks large delivery trucks, about 516%. So these are sunrise sectors, if we can say, for our trade, and also many other smaller sectors like hydrocarbon related, broadcasting equipment, and unglazed ceramics. Jewelry has been has seen a bit of fluctuation, but that is also growing, and there is a lot of potential as well. We go next to, so that is why we are focusing on some products. For example, in terms of agricultural products, we have focused on mango. We will focus on tea, coffee, and let's say ceramics, capital materials. Those are the products that we will focus during this year. Here you can see that we did an event with Covaxin. Dr. Rachis Ella of Bharat Biotech himself did a presentation. Which this event was received very well in terms of healthcare related cooperation with Kuwait, for which we have a large potential. Next, please. We also focus on states. We do state-specific events for promotion of investment, tourism, and we have done so with Tamil Nadu this year. Next, please. We have focused on marine products as well. Beginning of this year, we had a very good bioseller meet, and we still continue to do the follow-up with all the importers and exporters registered with us. Right, so that is in a sense an overview of what we have been doing, and thank you all for joining. We look forward to listening from our expert speakers today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that overview on current and professional, potential trade relations. Now I request Mr. Choji Lamba, Chairman, India Business and Trade, to deliver his remarks.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the panel today. My greetings to His Excellency Ambassador of India to Kuwait, Shri Sibi George, the honored panelists representing the Trade Promotion Council of India, and the other dignitaries who are key speakers today. Welcome to today's webinar event organized by the Embassy of India in Kuwait. So the auto sector in Kuwait is, like most countries, has been well established much before even I was born. It's a very critical part of any economy, just like the food and medical or healthcare sectors. Without this sector being established, I can assure you, you would not be getting proper medical attention or food on your table. We all know that mobility is a very critical part of our daily activities, without which we are really handicapped. So my father, Mr. Kuldeep Singh Lamba, is also a veteran in this business sector, who started Almalam Company in 1960. And it is one of the many reputed names that you see, among other names like Auto One, Samara Auto Supplies, and several others. In fact, there are names of somebody like late Mr. Sunny Matthews, who was actually known as Toyota Matthew in Kuwait. He was critical in developing the Toyota brand in Kuwait, more than 55, 60 years ago, and he was there for a long time. Unfortunately, he's no more. So the Indians have played a very critical part in the Kuwait automotive sector. So this list is exhaustive because I also truly admire our fellow Indians, who own and operate so many medium-sized and smaller-sized businesses, who have created a setup with their pure entrepreneurship drive and grit. To me, Indians by nature are entrepreneurs, and Jugaad is simply part of our nature. So our company, Almalam Company's core focus has been auto ancillaries like tires, auto parts, auto glass, auto batteries, garage equipment, etc. See, the fundamental difference being, our sector or the ancillary sector won't sell you an automobile, but we can cater you with nearly all your needs to make sure your vehicle is operating. And so therefore, the vehicle maintenance and operation becomes a very critical part of making sure that vehicle is running well. So I recall during our childhood days, holidays would be with our grandfather in Delhi, and he would be looking after his car's battery, filling it with distilled rainwater. And I found that very unique because I couldn't understand that why is he collecting rainwater to put in his battery. But anyway, his car battery lasted him a lifetime in his Fiat Padmini. And, those were the days. And now we have these days where Indian automobile batteries have come a long way since then. They carry a very strong reputed name in Kuwait as well as international markets. There are several importers and distributors of Indian battery brands like Amaron and Excite from India. Excite India, as the name suggests, was started with US collaboration, and but now it has been fully owned Indian owned for nearly 3 decades now. So our group is a representative of this battery, and we really aggressively promote them. We are very proud of its quality and its performance. Rubber products made in India for the auto sector also have become vital and reputed over past many decades. Products like tires, beading, which goes in the doors and any closure mechanisms, belts and hoses are some of the many products. In the field of tires, our group's core focus it's brands, like Apollo, MRF, Seat, India, Alliance Tire Group, some of these Indian manufacturers. They are all international suppliers with top quality products with superb performance. In fact, Apollo and MRF are respectively ranked 15th and 16th globally among the tire manufacturers internationally. So these business houses like Apollo and MRF have actually acquired tire manufacturers in Europe, Israel, Southeast Asia, many other countries over the years to expand their global reach. And all of them have a very strong market presence in Europe, USA, South America, GCC, Southeast Asia, and not just the Middle East neighborhood. Just like Indian manufacturers have endeavored to step into global manufacturing, international brands like Bridgestone, Continental, Goodyear, and Michelin have also ventured into making tires in India. Goodyear USA, in fact, established its distribution in India in 1922, that's right. And that's nearly 100 years ago. And now, subsequently, Goodyear actually established its first manufacturing facility in 1961 in Balabgarh, very close to Delhi. So my thoughts, I may be wrong, but my thoughts are that the arrival of international tire brand manufacturing in India has been good for the Indian tire manufacturer and upping their quality, which speaks for itself today. In fact, the brand Seat, one of the brands we represent, its performance in the truck segment in Kuwait is just simply outstanding. Imagine they are designed for this kind of heat and the roads. So as I mentioned earlier, rubber beading is also used in doors and windows in every vehicle. This product manufacturing has been pioneered in India by several reputed establishments who are global suppliers in the replacement market. Some of them are anyway original equipment manufacturers, which is basically fitted in the vehicle at the time of production. So to be honest, this list of Indian manufacturers has come of age, and I can say that it would only progress positively. See, generally speaking, products from the auto sector from India have had a very wide reach into the world markets, not only in Kuwait. And whenever I have visited Automechanica, Germany, or Dubai, the Indian pavilion is so well represented and highly engaging in promoting their quality products. With this small talk, I would like to thank the Ambassador of India to Kuwait, Shri Sibi George, and his team, and the other panelists to give me an opportunity to share some thoughts on the presence of Indian auto manufactured products in the global markets. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insight. We really appreciate and we are happy to have you on this panel. Now, I would request Mr. Ashok Kalra, advisor to the Indian Business Network in Kuwait, to deliver his remarks.
It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the timely webinar on enhancing bilateral trade and investment opportunities between India and Kuwait. As advisor to the Indian Business Network, let me first thank His Excellency Shri Sibi George, the Indian Ambassador to Kuwait, for his foresight and acumen in lending support and guidance to a series of business webinars that we have been holding and plan to hold over coming months. The Indian Business Network, which is an initiative of the ambassador, is an outreach program of the embassy aimed at promoting exports of Indian products and services to Kuwait while encouraging investment from Kuwait into various sectors of the Indian economy. The series of business webinars that we have been holding over the past few months due to the ongoing COVID-19 crisis have proven to be informative and engaging events. It brings together relevant stakeholders in various businesses in both countries for exchange of ideas and ways of improving and boosting trade and investment between India and Kuwait. As an advisor to the Indian Business Network and as a businessman involved in the food and hospitality industry in Kuwait for nearly 4 decades, I would like to share a few points of interest in this specific sector. But as I've been hearing, most of the points have been already covered by Smita ji and Excellency. So I will not repeat, but I have few instances which I would like to mention. As most of you are aware that India and Kuwait share commercial and social interactions that stretch back more than a century. Most of this early trade was in food products and pedigree, Arabian horses for the stables of Maharajas, seafaring merchants from Kuwait sailing in sturdy Indian vessels, locally referred to as dhows, traveled along the western coast of India and traded with Indian merchants, mainly exchanging dried dates for cereals, pulses, spices, and other food items, as well as practically everything else that a household in Kuwait required at that time. The world has transformed a lot on all fronts since those early days, with trade and modes of trade between India and Kuwait also evolving in line with global changes. Today, though the dates from Kuwait have been replaced with oil and its byproducts, the main commodity that India trades with Kuwait still remains the foodstuff. India continues to export cereals, pulses, and spices, but also a whole range of other secondary and tertiary food products, as well as goods and services in sectors that did not even exist before. The global pandemic, which significantly stifled international trade in 2020, has luckily begun to pick up in Kuwait appreciably since start of 2021, revealing the revived growth in trade. As all of you know that our Indian Minister of Commerce and Industry, Shri Goyal, disclosed recently that merchandise exports from India in the first quarter of 21-22 jumped 16% to over $82 billion relative to the same quarter 2 years ago in fiscal year 2019. Well, I will not go into the statistics, the details, which already Smita ji have very nicely have presented, but I will mention a few. For instance, with the exception of milled rice, in nearly every other food item, we have not realized export potential. Of the 36 million potential for shrimps and prawn export to Kuwait, we currently export around 14 million US dollars. Of the potential 23 million in Indian sugar exports to Kuwait, we realize only 9 million US dollars of exports. We are the world's largest producer of milk, and yet our export of most of the milk products to Kuwait is negligible. It is the same story of unrealized export potential, even in our traditional exports to Kuwait, such as most pulses, spices, and nuts. Well, again, instead of going into the figures, there is still a huge potential for improving and enhancing our food exports, especially to the countries in Gulf and in Kuwait. As mentioned by Smita ji, we have already million Indians possibly an equal number of nationals who have grown a fondness for the quality and variety of Indian foods. We need to leverage this and significantly boost our food exports to this country. To boost exports, India will need to improve. This is very important. Our competitiveness, including by decreasing transaction costs, streamlining transport infrastructure, encouraging foreign investment in the latest food processing technologies, and improving ease of doing business even further, while ensuring the quality and the consistency of our food products. In a post-COVID world, where importers are understandably wary of cheaper products from countries such as China, we can position ourselves to become a mega exporter of food products. Now, just to give you a fair idea that where we can get involved, where Kuwait and India can get involved together, I will just mention the areas, because if I go in details, there are time constraints, which I can send a mail after this the webinar is over. Is like food processing segment, RT and RTC means ready to cook foods, ready to eat foods, because nowadays husband, wives both are working and they look for all these things. Nutraceutical segments like food, healthy foods, then dairy segment, food technology segment. So there are many such more lucrative and relatively underexplored segments in the food industry in Kuwait that could benefit through partnership between SMEs in India and Kuwait. So once the webinar is over, as I mentioned earlier, I can send you the details where we can have a very good collaboration between India and Kuwait. Thank you very much. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for that overview. It really gives a very good insight into the food and beverage sector in Kuwait and what Indian companies need to do to capture the opportunity, especially in the post-pandemic period. I will now invite Mr. Sohinder Gill, CEO, Global Business, Hero Eco, and Director General, SMEV, to give his remarks on the potential of the futuristic sector, that is electric vehicles, where India is also seeing a lot of development of late. Mr. Sohinder Gill, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Virat, and thank you for giving the opportunity. And I was listening to all this very interestingly. But in the field of electric vehicles, it's a new area. It's a futuristic area. We have to discover what is happening and what's going to discover, what is going ahead. In India, I'll just give you a brief background about what we are doing or what the association is doing. And it is in infancy. It has just started because for the last 10 years, we were all toiling for electric vehicles, but policy was not helping. The recent shift in policy and the ecosystem, and particularly the states getting interested into electric vehicles, I think the time has come for India to become a real electric mobility transformation sector. The need is always there because the need for importing oil from Kuwait and many other countries is ever increasing. And that's one of the reasons. And second is the pollution, which is continuously increasing in India. So from that point of view, perhaps we all have to think of what the future beholds between particularly countries like Kuwait and India when the oil imports reduce or dependency reduces and electric mobility becomes the word of the day. I believe electric vehicles in India are very much on the affordability side right now. And cars have yet to come. Even in cars, we are toiling hard. Everybody, Tata, Mahindras, Maruti, they're trying to come out with cars which are similar in pricing to what Indian consumers can afford, which is a bracket of 10 lakhs, around 10 lakhs. Nothing beyond 15, 20 lakhs, because that's where the cars diminish in terms of volumes in India. But a typical electric car in India, or for that matter, any electric vehicle, has a combination of a battery and a vehicle. And the vehicle battery constitutes 40 to 50% cost of the whole vehicle. And that is a petrol that you get free for the next few years because the batteries last for those many years. So typically electric vehicles do cost 1.5 to 2 times of petrol vehicles. And that's where the volumes dry up as far as Indian consumers are concerned. But I think in times to come, when battery prices go down and the policy supports, these will be the vehicles of the future, which Indians would really imbibe because of the savings that they give to their pockets, as well as the national objective of crude oil consumption to be reduced and pollution to be reduced. I believe the opportunity lies not so much in two-wheelers, perhaps, because I have not seen, I'm sitting right now in Doha in transit to Canada, and I hardly see any two-wheelers here, right? And India is a country of two-wheelers. So perhaps the future lies in the relationship in the investments that are required in India for the electric vehicles, and everybody in the Middle East is sitting on a lot of wealth. And electric vehicle sector particularly needs lots of money in the R&D sector, in the marketing, in spreading awareness, or coming out with new products. So I believe, particularly in the field where Kuwaiti automobile partners do like to come to India, there is a need for the Indian embassy to attract investments into India, to be able to encourage the startups particularly, and even the mid-sized organization, or for that matter, even the Marutis of the world, to create a great product and a great business, which is globally very competitive, and some of it becomes also relevant for Kuwait. So I believe that what we should do over here in the embassy in Kuwait is to make people aware, the investment committee aware, community aware, that what is an opportunity in India on the automotive sector. And it's huge, because whatever is people, what these guys are trying to do, whether it is Hero or whether it is Tata or all, they're trying to create a new segment altogether. And it's all technology based. It's a lot of research, a lot of development, a lot of capacities. And on their own, they are not able to create that much of, pot of money to be able to allocate fairly when their petrol and diesel cars and petrol and diesel automobiles are also running at full swing. So given a proper climate of attracting investment, perhaps all the big players would also like to have some sort of a collaborative attempt with Kuwaiti partners, who also perhaps are seeing the future that oil is not going to be there forever. So they must have some sort of alternates available to be able to generate those many resources. And India is a wealth for that. So I would say that, yes, we should carry out more and more of attracting Kuwaiti investors into India and tell them where the future lies. And in India, there are so many places where it can be done at state level and at central level or at a policy level. Niti Aayog is a starting point for that. We are in very much close touch with Niti Aayog from association every day. They want to attract a lot of investments. They want to do a lot of things in electric vehicles. So perhaps we can get the embassies and Niti Aayog together to be able to create an environment of how and what platform is to be used to attract investments. And we should be able to create, like you were saying, we do things here. We should be able to create some sort of fair, some sort of panel, some sort of discussion points in India to attract Kuwaiti investments into India for electric vehicles. As far as statistics go, two-wheelers are obviously, we make 20 million two-wheelers in India. And we have just started on electric, and that is 100,000, 200,000 only. But an inflection point is just about to come, and we believe that India will be an electric two-wheeler country in around 10 years' time. A significant part of two-wheelers will become electric in around 10 to 15 years. On the car side, it is a late start because understandably cars need a lot of charging infrastructure. And that is one investment which Kuwaitis can really make in India, because that's quite capital intensive. Because unless there is a charging infrastructure in India, cars won't come. Cars cannot run just on batteries because of the range anxiety. So that's why there's a lot of interest of Europeans and Chinese and others to set up charging infrastructure in India, which is a fast charging or a normal charging. But as we all understand, we are slightly sort of not wanting Chinese to come into India in a big way. So we are all looking for some sort of investments in charging infrastructure in India. And perhaps that would be one of the areas of investing. Besides that, some products, like I told you, a good level mid-size cars, and little later big-size cars would be the name of the game. And that's why it is the time for getting some people who are interested with a long shot, a long horizon, to see to it that the two countries get together. Because India needs money, India needs investment, Kuwait needs less dependency on oil in future. So the two have to get together. Besides charging, there are a lot of financing possibilities. Like the electric vehicles are not financed right now. They are a new game for financiers. If the financing starts, then this extra 50-60% of the cost of electric vehicles will be spread over EMIs on something like 5 years, 3 years type of financing. That's another sector which perhaps is very interesting for investors from here, because if the financing is done in a way that it amortizes the running cost of the vehicle, we will have this revolution much faster, especially in the cars. So I believe that's another sector that we should promote, that the financiers sitting here should be able to finance in some sort of instrument or some sort of a collaboration along with Indian partners. In India, there are so many companies who are startups in financing. Again, they don't have much of money, but they have good ideas. And I think in our association also, we have a list of 13 of them. But there are guys who know investing, who know financing at the back of the hand, but they need money. So that's one sector. Financing, charging infrastructure, otherwise products or businesses also. So if we look at the time span around 10 to 15 years hence, and I believe strongly, except for the heavy vehicles, which is trucks and which is like wagons and diesel locomotives, everything else would be, a majority would be electric. And we sitting here in Kuwait should understand this opportunity, which is a major shift from what we are doing right now, to get two-way collaborations, two-way bilateral type of arrangements done. So I believe this is the time for our embassies to work in that direction, which helps India in a big way in transforming electric mobility, and which helps Kuwait in a big way to reduce the dependency in such type of exports, which are surely going to taper down in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. You have laid out quite comprehensively the kind of opportunities and also identified a critical area of synergy where India and Kuwait can definitely collaborate in the field of electric vehicles. I will now invite Mr. Ashok Sethi, Director, Trade Promotion Council of India, to give his views on India-Kuwait trade and potential.
Thank you, Virat. Your Excellency, Shri Sibi George, Ambassador of India to Kuwait in absentia, Madam Smita Patil, First Secretary, Political and Commerce, Shri Choji Lamba, Chairman, Indian Business and Professional Council, Shri Ashok Kalra, Advisor to the Indian Business Network, Shri Sohinder Gill, Director General, SMEV, and Shri Suresh Makhijani, Director General, Trade Promotion Council of India. I thank you short in India-Kuwait bilateral trade and investment vis-a-vis present status and the opportunities envisioned. Virat, am I audible? Virat, am I
yes,
audible?
sir, you're audible now. There was, I think, yes, sir, you're audible. There was just a network, I think, loss in between.
Backend told me that it's not. I'll continue.
Yes.
I would like to say, with full respect to Madam Smita Patil, that she's been so kind as to dish out so many numbers, which I had also collected. So what I will do is that I'll rush through them in a summary. But definitely we will have a lot of information in common, but I'll definitely summarize it in a manner that it makes sense so that all of us understand that there is a way forward which is on a common platform. And the job of TPCI obviously is to correlate and extend our services as a council. Therefore, I have a small presentation which I'd like to share, and let's go ahead with it. Right. First of all, I'd like to introduce Trade Promotion Council of India. It's an apex trade and investment promotion organization. It has been notified by the Foreign Trade Policy, Government of India. It is also recognized and supported by the Ministry of Commerce and Industries, Ministry of MSME, Ministry of External Affairs, and several state governments. We have about 2,500 more active industry members from food and beverage, food processing technology, chemical and allied products, ceramics, IT telecom, infrastructure, and service sector. Just trying to segregate, we have TPCI's special sectorial committees for trade and investment promotions in food and beverage sector, which means a sector committee on food and beverage, a sectorial committee on food processing and packaging. We also have special sectors committees for trade and investment promotion in other industry sectors like chemicals, ceramic, and services. The objective is that we are trying to service as far as possible. The few top players in respective sectorial committees, who are our members obviously, are, for example, in Food and Beverage Sectorial Committee, we have big names like Capital Ventures, Nani, Bikaji, Hamdard, Britannia. In Food Processing Technology, we have ITC, Kirloskar, Uflex, and others. In Chemicals and Allied Products, we have a sectorial committee which comprises of Unitop, GFL, Tanya, Asian Paints. These are big names, Indian Chemical Council. In the Ceramic Sectorial Committee, we have organizations like Varmola, AGL, SEG, Lawrence, and others. Looking at the snapshot, some information already been shared. I wouldn't like to go through it again. I would just say that, yes, reiterate the fact that India and Kuwait enjoy a very traditional, warm and friendly relationship, which is historical. 60 years of our diplomatic relationships between the two countries established. We have been excellent partners. And in recent past, our bilateral trade has flourished with excellent mutual business footprints. I'll just take you through the footprints to reiterate the fact that, yes, we are strong together and what are the objectives and how we can go ahead. If you look at the bilateral trade, the numbers are already being shared. I would just like to mention that Indian exports to Kuwait, whether it be Indian imports from Kuwait or the bilateral trade put together, 2019 versus 2018 was robust. It grew by 14%. But of course, because of the pandemic, 2020 has shown a dip of around 33%. Going towards India's top potential exporting products to Kuwait into 2020, consumer goods section, you will see the products which India exports to Kuwait in million US dollars comprises of motor cars, vehicles, we talked a lot about it, electrical conductors, jewelry, frozen meat, and pastries, bread, etc., accounts to about $68 million, and India's export to the world being a huge quantity. However, Kuwait's imports from the world was $538 million, which means we are on an average 7.9% share in Kuwait's imports, which is good, which is big and has the scope to grow. A point to note here is electric vehicles. We've been talking a lot about it. We are very fortunate to have amongst us Shri Sohinder Gill, the Director General, SMEV, who I believe breeds EVs. He has very kindly agreed to join us, though in travel. I'm sure that we will benefit a lot from his contributions, which he has talked of today. And I would request him to please add value and be available for his counseling as and when required to all of us. Going back to the Kuwait, top potential export products to India has been, waste scrap of aluminium, paper board, copper, polyethylene. This accounts again for about $68 million compared to India's imports from the world is is $5,749 million, which means only a paltry 1.2% is contributed by Kuwait. On the food and beverage sector, which has been talked of very well and explicitly by Madam Smita Patil, I would like to mention here that the top food products which we talked of, rice, coffee, frozen meat, onion, etc., accounting for about $270 million, is huge. And the opportunity of around $1 million coming in from Kuwait again has an opportunity to grow. So what I'm trying to establish here is our Indian food and beverage products, as very rightly again pointed by Ashok ji, is that we have huge acceptability of our products in Kuwait. So let's encash upon it. We also talked about the prominent Indian companies in Kuwait. We've talked about the PSUs, just to mention again, LIC, New India Assurance, Air India have offices in Kuwait. And Indian EPC companies have again bagged excellent business of around $6 billion in Kuwait, which is great. Needless to mention, as was being mentioned again, is that we have excellent presence of tires with the brand names, Seat, TVS, Apollo, MRF, buses, trucks and cars, Tata, Ashok, etc., bikes, batteries, and consumer durables like Havels, Oneida. It just shows that Indian products are flourishing there and can do extremely well. We understand that there's been a chunk of excellent Kuwaiti investment of about $5.5 billion by the Kuwait investment authorities, which comprises of investment into impressive companies like GMR, Power Grid Corporation, and privately by Al-Ghaman Group of Kuwait into retail business and Capico Groups into automobile, lifestyle, and healthcare. Tourism. This is something which is being talked of a lot, both in India and abroad, I'm sure, is something which we need to talk about, which I see a huge potential to attract bilateral tourism. And why? If you look at these very numbers quickly, around 11 million people came as foreign tourist visitors to India all over the world. And Kuwait was less than 1% on this number front. In 2019, 3.7% of all the Indians who traveled from India visited Kuwait. That means all those who went abroad, 3.7% went to Kuwait. 8.6 million foreigners visited Kuwait in 2019, which means a good 11% of them were Indians. I know most of them must be for business visits, but the fact remains there is huge potential. Praiseworthy cooperation has already been talked about in COVID-19. Yes, huge synergy. We sent in a team, we sent in vaccines, and Kuwait cabinet issued a statement in support of India and offered to send during the second wave liquid medical oxygen in a big way. Therefore, distinguished participants, all I have to say is that I've thrown light on some of the attractive sectors and the potentials which we believe can be tapped immediately to increase the bilateral trade, hopefully in the next couple of years. Indeed, let's pray that the pandemic blows away soon and we get back to business between two excellent, willing and friendly nations. Needless to say that TPCI will be ready to participate on an agreed format to enhance mutual trade anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that presentation. I will now come to a brief Q&A session with our panelists based on some of the queries or seeking knowledge or insights from the participants. First of all, I would like to come to Madam Smita Patil, First Secretary, Political and Commerce. Ma'am, what kind of opportunities do you see for diversification of India's export basket vis-a-vis Kuwait? And I would like to ask you, since Sethi sir also talked about tourism, but sectors strongly rooted in or having a link to India's cultural tradition, heritage and traditional wisdom, which include tourism, yoga, Ayurveda. How do you see the potential for these sectors in Kuwait?
Right. Thank you. Thank you for the question. So taking from where I had left during the presentation, we said that sectors like food and automobile have been traditionally doing good, but as we see, still in those sectors itself, there is a lot more potential for us to explore in different product categories. So as I earlier said, we have focused on products like high value products like tea, coffee. I would like to see branded Indian coffee, branded Indian tea here in Kuwait, and there is a huge potential for that. Our internal market survey suggests that the young Kuwaitis, they are interested in products which are well branded, well packed, and the products which give a wholesome experience. For example, if you know about Arku coffee, how it has taken off with great branding and the whole farm to your cafe experience in Western countries, such products have huge potential here. Let's also not forget that 1 million Indians in Kuwait means that there is a scope for lots of products from different regions of India. So regional food products, specialized snacks, which are particularly popular in different regions of India, would naturally have, these are like low hanging fruits which can be exploited in a sense. The other products that we said, apparel, for example, knit and non-knit apparel, there is huge scope for these products because of course cultural similarity, we have connectivity, and also there is good interest in those products in terms of fashion or acceptability of designs coming from India. So I would say that anyone interested in textile and apparel sector should look at Kuwait as a major growing market, be it baby clothes or knitwear or non-knit, even drugs, all types of textile, for example. You said yoga and other traditional Indian sectors. As I mentioned earlier, the embassy has been very much aware of this. We are probably the only embassy globally of India. We have started Ayush Information Cell this year in coordination with the Ministry of Ayush in India, which means that, of course, with the constraints of the pandemic, we are right now using virtual modes, and we will have digital information displayed and shared with our contacts in Kuwait and elsewhere. We have this Ayush bulletin, which is a 60-page bulletin with great write-ups and photographs of all possible, Ayurveda treatments, wellness centers, yoga destinations, resorts. So we are looking at it not just in terms of traditional medicine, but also as wellness. And this is one sector in which, as Mr. Sethi's presentation showed, that there is huge scope for Kuwaiti tourists coming into India. Every day, as Ambassador mentioned, we meet Kuwaitis who are interested in not just in India as a cultural destination, but as a destination for all sorts of tourism. Let's say adventure tourism, it could be, stays in houseboats in Kerala, or it could be a visit to Rajasthan to see different kinds of architectures. So there is a huge scope for wellness tourism, and we have done some work in this, and in future we will focus more, where dedicated packages in terms of healthcare, but also with an element of leisure into it. Kuwaitis have been visiting India for healthcare services in past. With COVID, that has not been the case last year. But even then, we have had some cases of people traveling to India for critical medical care during this time as well. So we hope to rebound with inbound tourism in India from Kuwait. And I think that is just waiting to happen as soon as the travel restrictions go away. But in terms of wellness, I think the embassy has been pretty much covering all our bases. And we hope that the situation of pandemic will allow us to focus more on this and have targeted, because our target is to attract the attention of young Kuwaitis who right now look at the West and the Europe for their tourism destinations. But India has as much to offer to them, and probably the whole family can visit. So we are looking at it, and we will focus on it in the coming year after this situation improves a bit. I think that answers. Maybe I'll just add one point to what Mr. Sohinder Gill said. Sir, if you would remember, in fact, the embassy partnered with SMEV in October last year to have an event in which we focused on automobile sector, but the focus was also on smart mobility. And to our own surprise, we found that there is a great interest for this in Kuwait as well, not just the traditional automobile sector, but as you said, today our focus is not so much on inward investment in India. We are tackling that in various other formats with Invest India and our financial and investment bulletin and other platforms. But in that program, we found out that, of course, as you said, investments in smart mobility sector in India, we have explored possibilities of that, and I hope that in future we will have, that we gauged interest in Kuwait about this. So definitely this is on our agenda, and we have already been engaging people in Kuwait on this sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's a pleasure to listen about the embassy's efforts in this regard. Now, I would request Mr. Choji Lamba to advise us based on your extensive experience in Kuwait. What advice would you like to give Indian companies who are looking to strategize their investment and or their physical presence in Kuwait?
Thank you, Mr. Bahari, for this opportunity. And the thing is, in Kuwait, it has been, a very strong market for automotive products. Like I mentioned earlier on, that it's a very well-established market for automobile sector, for automobile ancillaries products. So for anybody to come, to come into Kuwait, the most easy way or the traditional way has been, to actually work with a representative in Kuwait who's already established. That's one of the easiest inroads getting. And the Indian products, like I explained earlier, they're very well accepted. I mean, it's the range of products, I only mentioned a few, but it's enormous here. So the opportunity is there. Now, unlike Dubai, where Dubai offers you this platform where, the manufacturers have their own rep set up in Dubai. So that in Kuwait is a bit of a challenge. It still has to, move to that sort of, look at something more globally, more openly. And Kuwait, I tell you, I must say that, recently funny enough, we got involved into a recycling plant, rubber recycling, because our core product being tires, so somehow we ventured out into that. And, getting that off the ground and making it successful has been a battle because Kuwait is, it takes time to establish any kind of, sort of industrial setup in Kuwait, although the thing is, the infrastructure is there, the opportunity is there, the money is there. And, I with the network of contacts that I have, there is interest also. Like, Madam Smita just mentioned that there is interest, from young Kuwaiti entrepreneurs who want to, have some sort of a technical know-how, collaboration to, have something in Kuwait. So there is an opportunity, but how does it get established in Kuwait is I think the Indian embassy, along with the Kuwaiti authorities, maybe can play a good role, critical role. But the chances there, opportunities there for sure. And the Indian products are well accepted here. And that's not a problem. So that's there. So that's my, 2-bit viewpoint on, Indian automotive sector products. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us that guidance. I will now request Mr. Ashok Kalra to tell us what kind of business collaboration opportunities can we see with greater, interface opportunities if we facilitate between SMEs, particular,
The voice is breaking. Can you repeat the question, please? The voice is breaking.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, sir, with greater facilitation opportunities, how can you see expansion in business SMEs of India and Kuwait? What kind of facilitation, what kind of opportunities can this give or lead to? And how are you facilitating the same as Indian Business Network?
Well, as my colleague Choji Lamba just mentioned, that there are a lot of opportunities open in Kuwait, but it's a little bit challenging. But once it picks up, then there is no end to it. Now, as far as the SMEs are concerned, as I mentioned earlier also, there are a lot of ways that people can invest in Kuwait, or Kuwaitis can invest in India. Like I mentioned, food processing segment. Now, investments from Kuwait and sharing of latest techniques and technologies in the industry could help boost the production volume, maintain consistency of the quality, and ensure export to a wider global market. Another area where I am personally, now my company is a Kuwaiti company, of course, being managed by Indians, and we are the whole soul, those who are running this business. Now, I am personally also with the growing number of people now, as you see in India, to the urban areas, and both husband and wife often working to support families, there's an increasing demand of ready to eat and ready to cook foods. Now, producing foods in this segment, which is in addition to its convenience and ease of preparation, also offers health and nutrition benefits, is another area that could be explored by SMEs in both countries, which personally my own company is looking into that. And we are trying to collaborate. And now, of course, I'm going to take the help of TPCI. And another, as I mentioned, is nutraceutical segment with health awareness and emphasis on natural foods, increasing in both countries demand for these products, which offer nutrition and health benefits, is a sector where SMEs from both the countries could form a partnership. Then there is a dairy segment. India being the largest producer of milk and largest consumer of dairy and dairy products, there is immense scope for investment and for forming joint SME ventures in this segment. Then there are so many, then food technology segment. So I have a list of that, which, as I mentioned to you, that I will send you a separate mail on that. But in one line, there is a lot of scope of partnership between India and Kuwait. And we can procure a lot of investment from Kuwait, provided if we get a good interaction with the Indian companies.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. We look forward to working with you in that towards that objective. Finally, I would like to request Mr. Sohinder Gill to tell us that with its well-established automobile industry and component base, which has indeed been an inspiration for manufacturing in general in India, what do you see as India's key advantages in its vision to be an EV hub? And what are the critical steps required to realize this vision? And of course, we're talking about four-wheelers, which is the future which we are talking about.
Well, as I told that four-wheelers are much dependent on ecosystem and infrastructure, but it is surely coming in India, and people are investing into it in a big way. Once that is set up, because for a car owner, there are two things which are important. One is status. Second is no range anxiety type of a thing if he has to go from one city to another. So when this comes in, there is no reason anybody would buy a sort of a diesel or a petrol car when it is so much economically viable to have a car which otherwise guzzles so much of petrol, which is becoming costlier by the day. So I believe in 3 to 5 years' time, there will be a revolution in India for electric cars, and particularly the mid-sized ones in which we are popular in India. And that's the time when India will also become a global hub for exports of cars to certain countries where it is already exporting on automobile basis. Latin America, Africa, and some other parts of the world. We are very popular in two-wheelers and three-wheelers and four-wheelers exports. So at some point of time, I don't know whether Kuwait, I don't know much about the country, but the UAE is already talking a big amount on already trying to import vehicles or otherwise set up some manufacturing units there, even for two-wheelers for that matter. Because countries are also trying to change behaviors of commuting from a small point to point to the transport which is public sector also. So one can think of myriad ways in which there could be two-way collaborations of experimenting imports of, for example, I see over here in my hotel, there are electric scooters standing in the reception here. And people just take out for short distances in fair weather and go around the place and come back. So these type of things can be started in a small way, but little later, when there are good collaboration between the two countries, there is a lot of potential of obviously automobiles. And then behind that, those specific parts like Mr. Lamba is saying, anything to do with electric will need lots and lots of spare parts also later. So it's right time to establish that backbone right now about batteries, about electronics, about motors, about so many other things that would need replacement in future when electric vehicles come. And electric vehicles will surely come in Kuwait also, I'm sure. So whether they come from India or anywhere else, the after-sale business will still thrive. And this is the time to think about a long shot of investing into those businesses which provide after-sale service in some way or form, in parts or services to electric vehicles, which are then imported or otherwise assembled in Kuwait. Thank you.
So much, sir, and thank you so much, everyone, for this excellent session, which has been thought-provoking and insightful in many, many ways. And I would now like to request Madam Smita Patil to deliver her closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bahari. Thanks a lot to all of you. Thank you, Mr. Sethi. You have been, this was your concept, and with your efforts, we could bring together all of you because we have lots of events going on, but with the constraint of the pandemic, it becomes a bit more difficult to find the right platform and the right format and engage meaningfully on both sides. So that is why we try to innovate, and so that this is the first time that we are doing an event where it was, I think most of it was done by TPCI, and we have participated from our end. But definitely this has been a very fruitful exchange. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Mr. Kalra, Mr. Lamba, Mr. Gill, Mr. Makhijani, and thanks a lot for participating and your valuable guidance. And as we can see from lots of comments in the chat and in other places, there are questions, and I'm sure we will get back to them. We will have, like what we have done in past with our events, we would always like to have a follow-up, activities, in the sense that it would be great if we can have all the people who have participated today, if they wish to share their contacts, maybe TPCI can share with us, and we will share it with our Kuwaiti audience, people who are interested in these sectors, so that they have contacts, and whenever they need it, they can take this further. So thank you, thanks a lot, and thank you to my team, especially Fauzia, who has very resourcefully put together this event. Thank you, Mr. Bahari, and hope to work with you again in future on some other subject. Thank you, Mr. Sethi, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, and we'll definitely address all queries where relevant to the embassy. I will now request Suresh Makhijani, sir, to deliver the vote of thanks, please.
Thank you, Virat. And that brings us to the end of a very interesting webinar. I would sincerely like to thank our esteemed panelists for taking out time and sharing their insights on India with trade and investment opportunities. His Excellency Mr. Sibi George, Ambassador of India to Kuwait, Srimati Smita Patil, First Secretary, Political and Commerce, Embassy of India in Kuwait, Mr. Choji Lamba, President LM Group, Kuwait, and Chairman India Business Professional Council, Mr. Ashok Kalra, Advisor to the Indian Business Network, Kuwait. Mr. Sohinder Gill, CEO, Global Business Hero, Eco and Director General, SMEV, and my dear colleague, Mr. Ashok City, Director, Trade Promotion Council of India. I hope this session has provided some of the critical inputs that businesses on both sides are seeking as they seek to enhance their collaboration and secure win-win partnerships. At TPCI, we are always ready to assist you in case you need any further assistance, and look forward to working with the Embassy of India as well as our friends in Kuwait to provide necessary platforms that will facilitate bilateral trade and investment. On this note, I respectfully bring this webinar to a close. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.